Welcome to A Moment of Zen. Time to sit back and relax as model, actress, mentor, and supermom Zen Sams takes you on a sexy and wild ride, covering the latest in film, fashion, pop culture, cryptocurrency, fintech, cannabis, and entertainment from the Millennial Mom's perspective. Here's your host, Zen Sams.
Hello, my beautiful friends and loyal listeners. It's always a pleasure to spend my time with you on the airwaves. Thank you for listening and interacting with me on social media. That truly makes it all worthwhile. Please make sure to follow me at Zen Sams. That's Zen with an X, not a Z. And remember that we're now live on Travers TV Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern and on YouTube Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern. All episodes of A Moment of Zen are now available on demand and on our YouTube channel. Pretty soon, we'll be debuting on your home TV network with Kathy Ireland's incredible lineup. But today we have a show lined up for you that's like no other. In our Millennial Mom segment brought to us by Animoca Brands, we are featuring the incredible Kathy Ireland. She's coming on in just a few to chat about the new streaming platform, Your Home TV, her latest Metropolitan Magazine cover, how it all ties into the Metropolitan Lifestyle show, and her recently debuted fashion line on Home Shopping Network. In our entertainment and pop culture segment brought to us by Romulus Entertainment, we are featuring the amazing comedian Jeffrey Gurian. He's worked with some of the biggest comedy legends from NYC to LA, all the way to Montreal. He's coming on to chat comedy, life, happiness, and how he became stutter-free. In our Politigal segment brought to you by ogpay.com, we're featuring the incredible Angie Alberti, my dear friend, a supermom redefining local politics and running for borough council right here in Norwood, New Jersey. Local governments in our local cities and local towns make real local decisions that impact our real local lives. We are chatting about the importance of local politics and why your vote counts on November 8th. In our Hello Open Metaverse segment brought to you by Animoca Brands, today we're featuring the incredible Alan Lau, Chief Business Officer at Animoca, joined by my good friend Amy Madison, partner at Digital. Digital is a metaverse and gaming fund backed by Stephen Cohen. Now, Amy tends to operate at the intersection of entertainment, crypto, and law. And today she's coming on and we're going to be chatting. Alan will be covering art in the metaverse, the new immersive experience, redefining galleries, while Amy will chat about what laws and regulations will apply for everyone involved, exploring if we can govern the ungovernable for a safe Hello Open Metaverse. In our My Healthy Minutes segment brought to you by Revere Securities, we're joined by fitness influencer, co-founder of Radical Body Transformations, Anthony Lawley. Today, we're chatting about weight loss, amazing transformations, how he turned his life around, and how to combat child obesity. Stay tuned. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. We'll be right back with Kathy Ireland.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Animoca Brands as a worldwide industry leader in digital, entertainment, blockchain, gamifications, and digital property rights. Animoca Brands plays a key role in the future growth of the metaverse. Ranked by the Financial Times as a high-growth company, Animoca Brands creates a new asset class, GameFi economies, and a more equitable digital framework contributing to the building of the open metaverse. For more information and to become part of the excitement, go to animocabrands.com. That's animocabrands.com.
Welcome back, my beautiful friends. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up in just a few minutes, we have such an incredible guest. In our Millennial Mom segment brought to us by Animoca Brands, we're chatting with the amazing Kathy Ireland, supermodel turned super mogul. She began at age 16 on fashion runways all over the world, gracing covers of magazines from Vogue, Cosmopolitan, and Harper's Bazaar to People, Good Housekeeping, and Forbes. She is chair, CEO, and chief designer of Kathy Ireland Worldwide, the lifestyle brand she founded back in 1993, which now encompasses apparel and accessories for men and women of basically all ages, as well as furniture and home decor, cosmetics, nutrition, supplements, and even resorts, insurance, and telemedicine. She's one superwoman. Licensed Global Magazine ranked Kathy Ireland worldwide the world's 19th most powerful brand, the highest ranking woman owned licensed business in America. And in 2021, she became the youngest person ever to be elected to the Licensing International Hall of Fame. So impressive. She's coming on in just a few to chat your home TV platform, her latest Metropolitan Magazine cover, how it all ties into the Metropolitan Lifestyle show, and her recently debuted fashion line on Home Shopping Network. Now, you've probably heard of major companies like Disney, Facebook, and Amazon. What do all of these companies have in common? Well, the answer is simple. They understand the importance of branding. They weren't always big names in the business world, but they were able to grow into the titans they are today because they understand why branding is important from an early stage. For example, Apple is a tech company that wants to appeal to creators. To do that, it brands itself with creative ads and inspirational marketing campaigns, such as Think Different campaign. The net result is that when people think of Apple, they don't just think of a tech company. They think of a company that will help them bring their creative vision to life. Very much the Kathy Ireland approach. Welcome to the show, stunning Kathy Ireland.
Thank you, Zen. So great to be with you.
Wow, thanks for coming on, and what an impressive runway you have had. Let's chat your home TV. So Kathy Ireland worldwide joined your home TV with leading programs in business, health and wellness, fashion, home decor, your family programs, and so much more. And they are a new streaming network, just like Netflix. The streaming networks now, Kathy, allow viewers to watch many videos that are not generally streamed on traditional TV. They bring a lot of revenue and offer benefits to most companies. There are multiple reasons why what we call these OTT platforms are so popular. What drove you to a digital OTT platform like your home TV, Kathy?
Zen, I'm going to answer your question first. Thank you for your very kind introduction. And my goodness, I have to say, Zen, you are such a leader for women in business. I'm so proud of all of your many accomplishments. So, in answer to your question, what led me to this? Our work has historically consistently been unprecedented. I'm working in areas where people said, oh, you can't do this because you used to do this, and this doesn't make sense. But I like to ask a lot of questions. Why? Also, the how is very important. How are we going to bring this service, this product to market? How is it going to impact people's lives? Where will the solution be? What's the price to value ratio? And it's ultimately about who? It's about the people. Upon meeting Sean and Dana Stockel, leaders of Your Home TV and their team, and really spending time and getting to know who the people are behind this work, how will they impact other lives? How do they give back in meaningful, powerful ways? Because ultimately, we all work hard, and it's a gift to be exposed to needs bigger than us and opportunities bigger than us. These are amazing people. Your Home TV, it launches in November, and I love this, Zen. It's a subscription-free streaming channel. There's no cost to view programs for people who have smart TVs. And Your Home TV provides family-friendly programs. So it's your home for sports, for music, travel, fashion. It's your home to meet today's leading influencers covering a variety of topics and places of interest. In our company, Kathy Ireland Worldwide, we are pleased and honored to join Your Home TV. And we're featuring our leading programs in business, family programs, fashion, home decor, health and wellness. It was an honor and a privilege to be named by UCLA as one of the top 10 women's health advocates in America. And that is taken seriously, and it also inspires so much of the work we do, including serving as International Youth Chair for the National Pediatric Cancer Foundation, ambassador for the Elizabeth Taylor AIDS Foundation, working with multiple nonprofits. You mentioned our telehealth medicine with Let's Talk Interactive, and also our KI recovery programs and Anxious Nation. Mental health is of critical importance. So these topics will all be covered on Your Home TV, and it's
I love
a
it.
powerful. Aw, thank you.
It feels exactly like the one-stop shop to everything. I love that concept, and there's no app downloads, which is great because you have a demographic that totally is into downloading apps, like our digital natives, and then you have some of the baby boomers that don't want to download anything else on their phone. But I love it that there are no app download required, and your home TV provides easy access to content just via browser-based technology. So basically, Kathy, to your point, viewers can access your home TV anytime, anywhere through leading browsers like Chrome, Bing, Yahoo, all of the above, which cuts out that extra step, which is great for accessibility. All right, Kathy, I'm so excited to announce that Metropolitan Magazine's debut pilot into streaming content is actually going to be produced by our very show, and they'll have a participating channel on your home TV network called Metropolitan Lifestyles. So a big congrats is in order out to Adam, Chase, and his team over there at Metropolitan Magazine. Now turning into Metropolitan Lifestyles, bringing me to congrats on this Metropolitan Magazine cover. I had the honor of a sneak peek and it was absolutely stunning. I'm in love with your pictures. I can't wait for it to be out. And I love that it's both hard copy and digital. I mean, like the smell of the fresh magazine covers, flipping through the crisp pages of the newly opened periodical, so to speak. That's the feeling of what a fashion magazine should bring. The digital era just can't replace that, Kathy. But the world is definitely shifting to the digital platform. And it's not a privilege or a want, but mostly the need of the hour. We live in a tech advanced era that is evolving at an unprecedented rate. Tell me about why Metropolitan Magazine spoke to you, and how do you keep looking so ageless and beautiful? It's like time has stood still for you, my friend.
You are so kind, Zen, and it's an honor to be featured on Metropolitan Magazine. Okay, the biggest secret is there's all kinds of secrets behind it. It's a great team. It's hair and makeup. It's great lighting. It's retouching. It's whatever it takes. It's and I think that's important for people to recognize too what goes into the craft of bringing things to life. I mean, oftentimes there's all natural everything, and other times there's a lot of help, and I think it's good for people to recognize that there is a heck of a lot of help when I roll out of bed in the morning. It takes a little effort. So
Oh no, I could not believe
what
that, but you are beautiful and
well
stunning. I
it's
know you have a secret diet, or I know you have like a secret cream. You must have something.
you know what? I seek to be healthy. I seek to just really, honestly, it's having, I think, a perspective where I'm honoring my values. And when I do that, my priorities are in order and I'm honoring that, I feel great. No matter, I mean, there can be difficult days, there can be battles and struggles, but I've got the strength to go through it and to fight each battle. When I'm not doing that, when I'm not true to my own values and boundaries and what that is, I'm a mess and it doesn't work. So
Yeah.
it's a daily effort, and for me it's my faith, it's family, and then it's being in service through the work. When those priorities are not in order, it doesn't work very well.
Boom, you said it. Amen, sister. So, interestingly enough, when asked what appeals to people most about digital magazines, I'm going to go back to your fabulous cover, but it's also a hard copy. Readers felt that that it's a way to save their money, receive quality content faster, and at the same time do their small part for the environment. Hence, digital magazines, became a gateway to more environmentally sustainable solutions while increasing access to the media. So it's great. But I know you're all about the digital process. What are your thoughts on where we are headed currently right now into Web3, the metaverse? Are you all about it? Are you hesitant? What's your point of view?
Well, Zen, I mean, change is a constant. And something that I learned years ago, it's, rather than trying to resist it, I think it's so much more powerful to initiate positive change than being forced to react to it. And so anticipating what people need. And this really all goes back to being of service. And it goes back to knowing your customers. Who is the person you are serving? How do they live? What are their daily struggles? How can we make their life better? What you just mentioned about the digital world, there are so many solutions there that really help people, make their lives better, make their lives more efficient. And so being alert to that, you also mentioned something about the power of branding. And I so agree with you on that. I mean, when our children were little, they didn't want just any princess on their lunchbox. It had to be a Disney princess.
Yep.
That's the power of branding. And it takes a long time because it's relationship building. And I really believe that brands succeed because they build upon an existing relationship. And in times of economic uncertainty, this is all the more true because every dollar has to really be accounted for. So you shop where you have that trusted relationship where trust takes a very long time to build. It can be lost
Let me
instantly. And
piggyback
so
off
that's something
shop.
that we work very hard to
I'm gonna
deliver.
piggyback off shop because we have a minute and a half left. So you recently debuted a fashion line on Home Shopping Network, Kathy Ireland outerwear. I love it. I actually ordered one of each, believe it or not. The colors offer such a unique, eclectic array for especially, the time and place that we live in now. It's kind of like these 6 new outerwear pieces. The fashion portfolio is available on homeshoppingnetwork.com. I saw it. Talk to me about the inspiration.
Oh, thank you so much. Our company developed these coats, these designs with our partners at Bagatelle. And this is inspired by the runways of Paris and Milan. It's that luxury fashion and it's just beautifully made. The detail, the attention to detail is exquisite and at affordable prices. So, I mean, if this was coming off the runways, it's not very many people can afford this. When I worked as a model back in the last century, my girlfriends would give me a hard time. We're not going to spend money on a magazine to look at pictures of skinny, retouched women wearing clothes we can't afford. So, we understand you're working, you're saving money to start a business, go to college, whatever that is. But when you have your own brand, you better make it real. And
You said it.
it is so wonderful to serve in the area of fashion. It feels like coming full circle. Our fashion business, we started in fashion and we've continued, but yet we're bringing a fresh new focus to this industry. And with our coats and working with the team at HSN, it's so much fun to be able to connect with people and just bring them designs easily in a way that they want to shop and beautiful fashions at affordable prices.
I love it. Well, with that, we are out of time, my beautiful Kathy. I know you have a busy, busy day ahead of you. I'm going to so eagerly invite you to come back on and chat mental health on our next segment and all the other incredible things that you have lined up at your company and all the incredible outreach programs that you are involved in. We didn't really get a chance to talk about your mental health initiative, Let's Talk Interactive, but I definitely will be talking about it in my intro. Thank you so much for coming on. You are one trailblazing woman.
Zen, thank you so much. Thank you for all that you do.
Guys, definitely check out Kathy Ireland. She's all over the gram at Kathy Ireland. You can head to her website, kathyireland.com. That was our Millennial Mom segment brought to us by Animoca Brands. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Caldwell Soames Incorporated, investing globally in transformative businesses like Original Digital Corporation, or ODC. ODC develops advanced consumer and commercial fintech solutions such as OG Pay, which will transform the way you manage your money. From sending and receiving money globally for free, paying for goods and services in person and online, pay bills, buy and sell digital currencies, all while earning interest. OG Pay is easy to set up, FDIC insured, and your information is secured. Check out ogpay.com.
Welcome back, my beautiful friends. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up next in our entertainment and pop culture segment brought to you by Romulus Entertainment, we are featuring comedian Jeffrey Gurian. The media often refers to him as a Renaissance man because he's involved in just so many things. He's a writer, a performer, a director, an author, a producer, a radio personality, and even a doctor, but not always in that order. He's worked with some of the biggest comedy legends from NYC to LA to Montreal. He's performed stand-up comedy at some of the biggest clubs and festivals around, featured several times on Comedy Central, along the likes of Nick Kroll, John Mulaney, Amy Poehler, Seth Rogen, Laura Dern, and the fabulous Katy Perry. That's just to name a few, guys. He's also written 7 books. That's right, 7. The first 5 on comedy, and the last 2 of which he calls his happiness series. What an accomplished person. Proud to call him my friend. Today he's coming on and we're chatting comedy, life, happiness, and how he became stutter-free. Welcome to the show, superstar.
Thanks so much, Zen. It's so great to see you. You are a beacon of positivity. I have to say that. I must start with that. It's so special and so rare, and it just radiates from you. So I really appreciate that.
Oh, thank you, my dear friend. I love having you on again. Welcome back. So let's tell the world, you are a former cosmetic dentist and a former clinical professor at NYU in oral medicine and orofacial pain, and used to be a severe stutterer. You then developed the cure for stuttering and cured yourself. Talk to me about this cure, and is it available to others?
Yes, actually, I'm now working with people all over the world on Skype. Thank God for online, for Skype. Amazing. I started stuttering when I was about 6 or 7 years old, and I stuttered very badly through my 20s and beyond. I could never say my name. I could never say Gurion. Most stutterers have a very hard time saying their own name. And the reason is because your name is your identity. And there's something about stutterers that is not happy with who they are. And if you're not happy with who you are, it's very hard to tell people who you are. And I realized one day that I didn't stutter when I was alone. I only stuttered when I was trying to talk to somebody else. And I consider it grace. I was given the grace to figure out you can't have a disability based on your locations. And a man with a limps in every room of his house. He can't go into a room alone, close the door, and walk perfectly. But if I could speak well when I was alone, then theoretically it means there's nothing wrong with me. And that started my quest on learning to control my mind and to control my thoughts, and to release myself from what I call the bondage of stuttering.
I love it. It's fascinating. It's incredible. I'm going to direct people to the website at the end of the segment, but let's move on to your 6th book called Healing Your Heart by Changing Your Mind, a spiritual and humorous approach to achieving happiness. It attained bestseller status on Amazon, and it's available as an ebook, a paperback, and also an audiobook. Talk to me about the inspiration behind this series.
Well, first I have to show you the cover because it's a meditating dog, and people love dogs. Do you know how hard it is to get a dog to sit in lotus position? It's almost impossible. But that the title says Healing Your Heart by Changing Your Mind, and it could be misleading. People think it's about heart disease. It's about releasing what I call the heart wounds that we accumulate from the time we're children. Every time someone hurts your feelings or breaks a promise to you, or breaks up with you in a relationship, or lies to you, anytime someone hurts you at all, it stays lodged inside of us in our heart chakra. And it stays basically forever. You can overcome it. And that's one of the things that caused me to stutter. I had some negative thoughts about myself. And very often these thoughts are given to us by people who didn't have our best interests at heart. It starts as a child, and they affect your self-esteem and your self-confidence, and they affect every decision you make in your life. Because every time you're called upon to make a decision, you think about what to do. You use your thoughts. Who else's thoughts can you use? But if your thoughts aren't working for you, it means that you need new thoughts. And very often those new thoughts are spiritual wisdom. And so I developed these techniques of controlling your mind and controlling your thoughts. And I realized that people need to hear this. I actually have 8 books. I wrote another book after I survived COVID. And this book has become very special. People write about it and say it's actually changed their lives. It teaches you how to release the pains of your past.
What's the book called?
Well, the newest book
is... The newest one.
Facing Adversity, Stories of Courage and Inspiration.
I love it.
And it's true stories that I collected over 20 years of people who have overcome unbelievable difficulties. My stuttering was minor compared to what these people have overcome. And just about a week ago, there was an article in the New York Post about a wonderful actress named Katie Sullivan, who I wrote about in this book, a double amputee born without lower legs, who is starring on Broadway now in a show called The Cost of Living. And to me, it's so amazing because life gives us obstacles, and you can either be crushed by them or you can find your inner strength to overcome them. And I've always been so blessed. I've been so impressed by people who manage to overcome their obstacles. So that's why I wrote that book, my 8th book.
I love it. You are such an inspiration. We have about a minute left. I wanted to just touch on this. I know that you were recently in Montreal at the Just for Laughs Film Festival. You got to interview the fabulous Amy Schumer. What was that like?
Amy skipped the whole red carpet except for me. I was the only person that she would speak to, which was such a great honor. Thankfully, I know all these people before they became famous. Once people become famous, everyone wants to know them. But I knew them and supported them very early in their careers, and they appreciate that. And they all stopped to talk to me on the red carpet. So I get amazing interviews on my Comedy Matters TV channel on YouTube.
Yes. Now, how does one pursue, very quickly, about a minute left, how does one pursue a career in stand-up comedy in today's day and age? Very
difficult. Very difficult. You got to pay your dues. There's no quick thing. Although I just interviewed Joy Ying Summers, a new Chinese comedian from LA who's blown up. She's got 1.2 million followers on TikTok, and she's only been performing for 3 years because she's got a very interesting story. Her father was going to throw her in a dumpster, and her mother saved her life because there was a one-child policy in China, and she grew up to be this beautiful, empowered woman who's doing stand-up comedy. So you have to work hard. You have to do open mics. You have to be willing to work for free and totally inconvenience yourself, which is what I did for many years to get a reputation in comedy. It's a very difficult field, but if you believe in yourself, you can do it.
Thank you for your candor. Thank you so much for coming on. You are such an inspiration. I always love chatting with you. We're out of time, Jeffrey, but you are just one of those beautiful, unique souls.
Thank you, Zen. And you know what I say? It takes one to know one. So I send you much love. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you, my friend. Guys, you definitely have to check out Jeffrey Gurian. Go on his channel, comedymatterstv.com. You can also check out StopStutteringNowGurion.com. That was our pop culture and entertainment segment brought to you by Romulus Entertainment. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Caldwell Soames Incorporated, investing globally in transformative businesses like Original Digital Corporation, or ODC. ODC develops advanced consumer and commercial fintech solutions such as OG Pay, which will transform the way you manage your money. From sending and receiving money globally for free, paying for goods and services in person and online, pay bills, buy and sell digital currencies, all while earning interest. OG Pay is easy to set up, FDIC insured, and your information is secured. Check out ogpay.com.
Welcome back, my beautiful friends. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up next in our Politigal segment brought to you by ogpay.com, we are featuring Angie Alberti, my dear friend and a supermom redefining local politics and running for borough council right here in Norwood, New Jersey. Angie is in her 4th year of PhD in nursing science at Rutgers University. She is a mama to 3 awesome kiddos and the founder of a nonprofit called Inclusive Wellness, which focuses on bringing holistic and accessible wellness offerings to families, especially in underserved communities. She and her husband also own a youth travel softball organization called the New Jersey Thunder. She sounds like a very busy woman. Now, what made her decide to run for borough council in Norwood must be very deep-rooted. For me, American politics at times feels like nothing more than an overrated reality TV show starring criminals and people fully indoctrinated into a failing two-party system. But the truth is, local governments in our local cities and towns make real local decisions that impact our real local lives. And here to chat some local politics is the stunning Angie Alberti. Welcome to the show, Supermama.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to talk. And I love the way that you just introduced that. Thank you.
You got it, Mama. All right. So you sound like a very busy woman. What made you decide to run for borough council in Norwood, New Jersey? And what is your main goal when elected?
My main goal when elected is to help increase civic engagement in our community. And what made me run is seeing so much opportunity for our community to come together, to focus on the things, vast majority of things we agree on, instead of the very few things that we don't agree on. And I really saw how national politics were fitting into my local community, and it was very distressing to me. And I do have a lot going on, but I also have 3 children in our community, and my roots are deep here in Norwood. And so I wanted to use all my background in nonprofit work, in faith-based work, in community health, and bring a voice to the table. I was already doing a lot of things in Norwood, but I didn't have a seat at the table. And I think as women, I know especially for me at times, I was fine not having a seat at the table. And, I had women mentors kind of in my ear saying, why don't you think about a seat at the table in Norwood and being a part of making decisions for our town? So that's really what pushed me over the edge into actually putting my name as a candidate.
I love it. Seat at the table. Trailblazing woman right there. Now, the folks elected to local positions in our cities and towns act as our first line of government. Angie, you know this better than anyone else. They're the most accessible part of government to the average citizen. They are the faces you can actually talk to regarding any issues in your city or town. And the city councils in most cities and towns work to make their communities better places. And if you don't talk to them, tell them your concerns, and share your vision for the future, no one will ever hear your voice of dissent. How accessible are you, Angie?
I think for the people who know me know that I'm incredibly accessible, whether it's through private messages on Facebook, through text message as a mom in Norwood, just even drop off and pick up in the morning at school. I get a lot of feedback about things. Moms especially have a lot to say about local community, what could benefit our families and our children. And so I find that my approach is one that people feel comfortable telling me things that maybe they actually haven't felt comfortable telling people that are already on the council. And that's also, I often think of, I'm doing this for them as well.
You are a trusted source for sure. Now, if and when our local system is hijacked by those who are considerably richer than average citizens, our local government's charter is written with safeguards to allow the people to change the laws, rules, and even the functions of government simply by exercising their right to petition, their right to vote, and their right to freedom of speech. And I know that that's important to you. And the easiest place to change laws you don't like is within the local and state government. And luckily, our localities, Angie, have the ability to change law by petition. And although many cities and localities may try to battle this, slowing average citizens by using a mountain of administrative red tape, but eventually, anything with enough support will be given place on the state or local ballot. Talk to me about the importance of improving and empowering Norwood, and what is your biggest vision for the community?
My biggest vision for the community is that people realize that what they want for the community is really, really important. And that at a local level, they have a voice in being a part of what they want to see in their community. So I really want to stress that. Many people will say to me, oh, I don't really, oh, I don't have anything I want to talk about with Norwood when I'm out canvassing and knocking on doors. And I say, okay. So I just kind of wait. And then they're like, you know what? I actually do. And people really do have a lot. And they didn't know where to go to bring their concerns or their desires for their community. And so, coming to local mayor and council meetings, it is intimidating to speak on, open record and public, but that is a great avenue. Or joining together with other like-minded residents and writing a letter or to a mayor and council meeting, or having an appointment with a local councilwoman or councilman, is that your voice at the local level is so important and it is so needed. That's one thing that I really want to stress to my local community, is that your voice matters.
I love it.
It matters.
So what you're saying is think globally, act locally. Yes, it's a well-known phrase. It's not a cliche, or I guess it is, but still, even though local change may take a while to trickle up to the federal government, the possibilities we create when we take a stand locally, Angie, to your point, can create many ripples that actually affect the world. Now, why is your campaign called One Norwood? And do you feel that there is a current divide?
I do believe there is a current divide. I do believe there are part of our community wants, a stronghold in the way have always been done and status quo. And then there's part of the community who wants to see an evolving modern town that reflects the current demographics of our towns and wishes and needs. And so there is a tension. And I do believe some of it is also driven just by political polarization in our town. And so that is kind of the divide that happens nationally that's happening as an undercurrent in my community. And it really affects me, and it affects so many of us. And so what I'd like to see, one Norwood tagline is really around, again, what I said at the beginning, and I'll stress it again, we are more alike than we are unalike. And the more we can focus on the 90% of things we agree on, safe communities, quality services, a long-term sustainable plan, economic growth for our town, quality schools, balanced budget. These are all things we all say, yes, I want that, I want that, I want that. Let's just focus on that. And then what our town also needs is a council that reflects the diversity of our town, but is a model of how leaders can have differences, but work together.
I love it.
That is really important to me.
Amen. Amen to that. Angie, we are out of time, but I wanted to thank you so much for coming on. You definitely drove the message home. It was such a pleasure chatting with you. You are awesome.
Thank you.
That was our Political segment brought to you by ogpay.com. That was Angie Alberti, my dear friend, a super mom, redefining local politics and running for borough council right here in Norwood, New Jersey. Make sure you vote on November 8th. It doesn't matter who you vote for, but what does matter is that you do cast your ballot, get out there, and your voice counts. That was the beautiful Angie Alberti in our Political segment brought to us by ogpay.com. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Caldwell Soames Incorporated, investing globally in transformative businesses like Original Digital Corporation, or ODC. ODC develops advanced consumer and commercial fintech solutions such as OG Pay, which will transform the way you manage your money. From sending and receiving money globally for free, paying for goods and services in person and online, pay bills, buy and sell digital currencies, all while earning interest. OG Pay is easy to set up, FDIC insured, and your information is secured. Check out ogpay.com.
Welcome back, my beautiful friends. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Welcome back to our Political segment. We have the beautiful Angie Alberti. She's my dear friend, super mom, redefining local politics and running for borough council in Norwood, New Jersey. Welcome back to the show, super mom.
Thank you. Great to be here.
All right. So we're chatting local politics, especially at the state level. And my question is more on the education side, Angie. So as we were talking earlier, local politics, especially at the state level, is what I want to emphasize. Determine what happens in schools, okay? But education has played a central role in the health of American culture for some time, and many agree that our schools are in dire straits. Parents and teachers don't often know what to do about this, but they should know that their local systems have built into them safeguards to protect education. So if you're not happy with state-funded education, the first place to start can be local school board elections. What will you aim to improve at the education level, Angie, and what is most important to you as a PhD almost?
It's really interesting because what is most important is that people understand that local boards of education are subject to the, like you just said, to the laws of the state that govern this. And so it's really important that parents get informed about what the actual law is. And that is what we must demand of our education members, that they understand the laws and then they understand how and what can and can't be adopted at our local school systems. So that when they answer us, well, the state says we have to do that, that they understand, is that true? Are there allowances for a local school system to make their own decisions about certain things, whether it's curriculum, learning standards, and to that the Board of Education is not there just for political or personally motivated reasons, but they're really thinking about the district and that they understand the laws that are in Board of Education. As a council member, the council is to stay out of the school system, other than as it relates to making sure the school has the proper funding, that if there are any shared services that could reduce the cost of the school system and reduce the burden on the taxpayers' dollars, that council is working collaboratively with the school district to ensure that we're maximizing our taxpayers' dollars. And that's really what my focus would be as council.
I love it. Your message is loud and clear. It makes sense to me as a mom. It makes sense to me as a taxpayer. It makes sense to me as a resident of Norwood. And I definitely love what you're doing. And your campaign is extremely inclusive, which is very rare these days.
Thank you. That's very important to me.
That was our Political segment brought to you by ogpay.com. That was Angie Alberti, my dear friend, a super mom, redefining local politics and running for borough council right here in Norwood, New Jersey. Make sure you vote on November 8th. It doesn't matter who you vote for, but what does matter is that you do cast your ballot, get out there, and your voice counts. That was the beautiful Angie Alberti in our Political segment brought to us by ogpay.com. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Animoca Brands as a worldwide industry leader in digital, entertainment, blockchain, gamifications, and digital property rights. Animoca Brands plays a key role in the future growth of the Metaverse. Ranked by the Financial Times as a high-growth company, Animoca Brands creates a new asset class, GameFi economies, and a more equitable digital framework contributing to the building of the open Metaverse. For more information and to become part of the excitement, go to animocabrands.com. That's animocabrands.com.
Welcome back, my beautiful friends. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Welcome back to Hello Open Metaverse, brought to us by Animoca Brands. Today, we're featuring Alan Lau, Chief Business Officer at Animoca Brands. Interestingly enough, outside of his tech work, Alan contributes actively to arts development. He is chairman of Parasite, the longest standing nonprofit art space in Hong Kong. He also co-chairs the Asia Pacific Acquisition Committee of Tate and the Asia Art Circle of Guggenheim to help the two institutions build a global art collection. Today, Alan is joined by my good friend, Amy Madison, a partner at Digital. Digital is a metaverse and gaming fund backed by Steve Cohen. Amy tends to operate at the intersection of entertainment, crypto, and law. And over the past few years, Amy spearheaded the creation of most of the processes and protocols governing the stablecoin and its network. Today, Alan will be chatting about art in the metaverse, the new immersive experience redefining galleries, while Amy will cover what laws and regulations will apply for those involved, exploring if we can govern the ungovernable for a safe Hello Open Metaverse. During the last decade, virtual intersections have become an increasingly important part of life for consumers and businesses. Discussing the metaverse today in 2022 may feel a little bit like discussing the internet in the 1960s. To be viable as a place to live and do business, the metaverse will need real-world controls to protect users from abuse, fraud, and loss. Regulation takes time and is difficult to apply globally, but the builders of the metaverse can take proactive steps to create their own metacode of conduct. If the metaverse is to be truly viable, regulators and the architects of these virtual spaces should be working now to ensure the safety of its users. And here to chat some more are my experts at hand. Welcome to the show, superstars.
Thank you. It's always
Thank
a
you.
pleasure
Thank
to
you
be
for having
here.
us.
Absolutely. Alan, I'm going to start with you. Let's chat art moving into the metaverse. So the prestigious auction house Sotheby's opened its first metaverse branch back in June of 2021 after having tremendous success selling NFTs or digital tokenization on the blockchain network. And Sotheby's sees the metaverse as the next frontier for digital art. And they're not the only ones, Alan. More than a dozen metaverse museums and galleries have sprung up since the NFT frenzy began in its earnest back in 2021. How will the metaverse museums add value? Talk to me about some of the ways art can be created, showcased, and collected in a metaverse gallery setting versus the traditional one.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about that. I think it all started in some part due to COVID, right? Because the museums are shut for the good part of 2020 and 21. All the museums have been pushed to think about what is the digital strategy. Of course, a lot of things have moved online, but also there are new formats in which art has been created, and that comes the NFT Summit in 2021. So, I think a lot of museums are actually having an outpost in different metaverses, for example, in Sandbox. So for anyone that's actually walked into Sandbox, you'll see that, when you walk in the main hall, there's almost like an NFT Hall of Fame where you can see the most famous PFP project. And, quite a number of other traditional museums, like the British Museum, have also created NFTs and try to put it into the metaverse as well. So I think it's just a new way, driven in part by COVID, but I think it's also the broader trend where, this is the new avenue and channel for people to experience art.
This is definitely the broader trend, and which brings me into Amy. It takes time for regulation to catch up with technological innovation, which means that currently there is a lack of supervision, Amy, over the metaverse. And this concerns me on a number of fronts. First, the currencies we exchange in virtual worlds are not real money in the traditional sense. They're either cryptocurrencies or in-game currencies like Fortnite, V-Bucks. There may be accounts or wallets to store these assets in, but there's no government-backed protection from loss or fraud. What do you say to this, and how can artists and investors protect themselves?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think to answer that and break it down into three parts, right? One, what do regulators actually care about? Two, how can companies protect themselves? And then three, to your point, how can artists, individuals that are actually utilizing these platforms protect themselves? And so if we step back a little bit, right? Regulators care about the movement of money and substitutes of money. And what does that mean? Well, it depends on what day and age you're in. Back in the day, seashells were used as money at a certain time, precious metals. Today, we're seeing more and more vendors accept things like Bitcoin. Companies like Gucci and Tag are accepting ApeCoin, right? And so, can tokens be substitutes of money? Sure. Can NFTs be substitutes of money? Sure. Regulators care about the movement of value because they care about stopping things like terrorism financing, money laundering, and whatever form that value comes in, they regulate that. And so, what does that mean for companies, right? Companies that are building in the space, like Sandbox, like Alan mentioned, or protocols or marketplaces. Well, if you're a company and you're interacting with money or substitutes of money, in often cases, certain tokens and NFTs, even possibly, and moving it around from person to person or place to place, you're going to need to be licensed, and you're going to need to be registered in certain jurisdictions, and or you're going to have to work with a licensed or registered provider, right? That also means that you're going to have to conduct AML KYC checks, because the regulators are going to want to know who you're moving money to and where you're moving money to, so they can track that. And the consequences of non-compliance can range from fines to shutting down your platform to, in the case of OFAC non-compliance, it could be really serious criminal charges and even jail time. So it's important for companies to at least be aware of, hey, money laundering, terrorism financing, movement of money is an issue, and it's regulated. And then for individuals, I mean, it's very difficult, to be honest, especially in this day and age where many of the protocols that they use are probably run by anonymous founders, right? It's not easy. It's not always easy to do. Even if you try to do additional research, you can't really find the jurisdiction that the company, the DAO, or if it's even registered in, right? Do they have licenses? We don't know. What third parties are they working with? As you said, there's no government backing or stop loss protection for these DeFi protocols.
Got it. So it seems like, what it sounds like, what I'm hearing is, unless regulation of the metaverse is global in its reach, there may be really little to stop an offshore-based investment vehicle running its own corner of the metaverse and people accessing it from other virtual worlds. So you're right. This is extremely important to start to implement now. Alan, for centuries, art museums have fulfilled their mission in pretty much the same way: collect and curate work in a fixed space under a donor-based system. So I ask this often, what is the role of a museum in society today when culture is moving so fast that they really can't respond to what is interesting to the youth, to this generation? And NFTs, like CryptoPunks, might not have a place in the traditional art world, but they definitely can live in the metaverse, where they can be admired by an avid digital collector, or by a huge group of people that appreciate that type of art. What do you say to this? And in your opinion, will the digital natives, like our Gen Zers and Gen Alpha, respond positively to this?
Yeah, I think as you mentioned, I had the privilege to be supporting and affiliated with a couple of museums, and plus in Hong Kong is one that I'm the vice chair of. So I had the chance to look into the curatorial process. So I would have thought, because when you walk in the museum, you still see the same paintings, right? You still see installation. You don't really see NFT art, which I think is a really important medium, right? But what really goes behind the scene is actually museum curators do research into the latest trend, right? So, for example, in M+, and also in Guggenheim, because I also supported that team, is they've been studying NFT in a lot of detail. But the way they look at it is not just to look at the latest PFP project and to look at the way they set it up, but also to put it into a historical reference, right? To think about when digital art started, and it really started. You can draw it back to Namjoon Paik in the '60s, right? And of course, Montreal have actually been doing generative art and female artists in the 60s, right? So if you go all the way back, using printers, right, at that time. So, what they try to do is they take a very academic approach to say, where does NFT come from? It didn't come from nowhere, right? So it came from the advent and invention of computers and artists using that as a medium to create. And that's why you have Namjoon Paik using TV, you have Montreal who using printer to do generative art. And then you can say there are people that's using digital, that are using VR, and now is NFT, right? So I think museums are actually doing very interesting research in this area. And as with museum, having worked with them for so many years, it does take 5 years at a minimum for them to come up with a show, right? So, I think give them a couple of years. I think very soon you'll be seeing shows where NFT is part of the storytelling, because I think it is a very important milestone of digital art.
It's extremely, extremely important. And so now that we're entering in this phase of course, storytelling is extremely important, this safe ecosystem that we are creating to make all of this viable. But Amy, to make any financial regulation viable in the metaverse, there needs to be these strong links between virtual and real life personas and adherence to many of the same principles that make the real financial world safe. You mentioned it earlier, know your customer, the KYC requirements, tax laws, risk management methodologies, and so on will all have their place in virtual reality as it evolves. You have about a minute to answer this, or a minute and a half, but how do brands and DAOs go about KYC and AML in such an anonymous environment? Feels like an oxymoron.
Yeah, I mean, you asked $1 million question, right? And the answer to that is a lot of times they don't. Financial institutions that are regulators serve as the on and off ramps right now. So that's where the KYC points are when you want to flip from crypto to fiat. But the in-between hops, when you're going from anonymous wallet to anonymous wallet and joining a DAO, oftentimes there's no KYC there. And that's why obviously the regulators are concerned, and I can see that. But in a sense, that's how it happens in the real world, right? When I go to my bank, JP Morgan, they know who I am. But when I take my $100 out and take $5 to go buy a lollipop, give $5 to another street performer, give $20 to my friend, nobody is tracking or monitoring or reporting those transactions. I think the dangers with everything online, everything going in the blockchain, and everything payments being so seamlessly crossing borders is that everything's faster, easier, cheaper, at a larger frequency and in larger amounts, which also applies to, of course, bad actors. I think that smarter people that are working on, privacy blockchains, digital identity, passporting, they're working on these solutions, which have to exist, right, in order for this to move forward.
Without a doubt, without a doubt. Alan, interestingly enough, though, when the digital artist known as Beeple sold his Everyday's piece for $69.3 million in March of 2021, the discussion around NFT art was catapulted from relatively obscurity into the mainstream. And by the end of the year, total sales of digital art minted on Ethereum had swelled to really exceed more than $42 billion, according to a report by Chainalysis. And how the value of digital collectibles minted on other blockchains been included in that figure, the total value of the NFT art market may have equaled the traditional art sector, which ranked in around $50 billion in the same year. How is the metaverse really enabling artists? You have about 2 minutes to answer this. What opportunities can the metaverse offer to creators in Asia, but also around the world, that they may not have access to otherwise?
I think metaverse create a lot more artistic freedom, because you're not bounded by medium and production costs, right? So if you want to do an installation that literally defy gravity, you can do that in the metaverse, right? Especially in the Asian context, actually a lot of Asian artists, if you look at the work that they produce, a lot of it are paintings and smaller works. And the reason is no one had big studios. Spaces is such a premium. It's so expensive in Asia, right? So that is a big contrast if you compare like Asia to the Western world. I think in Metaverse, maybe this is where artists from Asia could innovate, right? And you might have seen that there's been a lot of creation from architectural practice, from design, and certainly from visual arts, where people are creating in the Metaverse. And I think because there's a little bit less physics and gravity, I think I think you could free up artistic imagination. So I think that's how Metaverse can make a difference to artists.
Yes, of course. It could also pave the way out of poverty for some, really allowing them to access lucrative new opportunities via this distributed global audience while bypassing the traditional gatekeepers of the commercial art world to build, like you said, a direct relationship with their collectors instead. And additionally, the ability to mint their creations as NFTs has now provided this unprecedented digital property rights to artists, to Amy's point, with blockchain-enabled smart contracts, enabling them to collect a pre-programmed and automated royalty on all future sales of the work via these secondary markets. It's absolutely brilliant and fabulous. That's why this ties in very nicely together. And that's why I wanted to have Amy and both you on, because there's such a nice synergy. It's like a fine dance that the two worlds have to make in order for this to all regulate nicely. We are out of time, but I wanted to thank Amy and Alan. It's such a pleasure chatting with you. You guys are true experts, and you have simplified this in the best way possible for our audience. So I thank you.
Thanks for having us.
That was our Hello Open Metaverse segment brought to us by Animoca Brands, and that was the awesome Alan Lau, Chief Business Officer of Animoca Brands. Head to animocabrands.com to get involved in all the action. And that was the awesome Amy Madison. Check her out, amymadison.xyz, and she's on the gram everywhere on Twitter @_Amy Madison. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Animoca Brands as a worldwide industry leader in digital, entertainment, blockchain, gamifications, and digital property rights. Animoca Brands plays a key role in the future growth of the metaverse. Ranked by the Financial Times as a high-growth company, Animoca Brands creates a new asset class, GameFi economies, and a more equitable digital framework contributing to the building of the open metaverse. For more information and to become part of the excitement, go to animocabrands.com. That's animocabrands.com.
Welcome back, my beautiful friends. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. Welcome back to Hello Open Metaverse, brought to you by Animoca Brands, where we're chatting with the awesome Amy and Alan. Welcome back, guys.
Thanks, Zen.
All right, Amy, let's pick this one back up with you. So regulations take years to develop. So as responsible businesses, whether owners, investors, or advertisers in the metaverse, you need to develop and follow a simple set of principles right now. And everybody wants to know what those principles are because they're entering the Web 3.0 space. So what are your top 3 metaverse principle must-haves?
That's a hard question. I don't know there are any all-encompassing things, but the 3 tips I would say are, 1, you should know what the big legal issues affecting your company and industry are. And that's easier said than done, right? For example, if you're building a blockchain game, you should know that money transmission, securities law, and IP are 3 very big topics. What does that mean? Well, there's all sorts of free resources on the internet. I've written over 100 pages on this, which can be found at amymadison.xyz. So be aware of what the issues are. 2, and oftentimes they're not self-explanatory. 2, I think that even if you're just a new company starting off, and you can't afford a full-time lawyer in-house, and you can't afford like a big law lawyer, you should at least try to do an audit, allocate a couple of hours for someone to take your post-mortem on your company's operations right now to identify the big red flags. And then 3, this can probably be applied to many things in life, but if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
I love it. It's true. But if you sum it up just like that, you're right, because a lot of these things they sound too good to be true, and they're preying on a lot of innocent people and people wanting to jump on the bandwagon and fear of missing out, FOMO, what we call. And as we just recently saw, Kim Kardashian got sued, and we have a lot of things that are happening. NFT shilling is trending right now. People are getting sued. So you are going to be in very high demand, my darling. You have the job that everybody needs right now or wants to consult with. Alan, excitement of being in a metaverse museum is to embrace the decentralization of this new world. Okay, that's what we've really been talking about, which overturns the traditional power hierarchy of a museum. But for NFT artists and collectors, it comes to the critical question: who decides what's art, right? Who is really critiquing this? Museums like New York's famous Metropolitan Museum of Art are nonprofits which rely on public and private funding and donations for revenue. Ticket sales only account for about 4% of its revenue in the 2021 fiscal year. And for artists, they're gatekeepers, like curators, critics, and collectors that they have to navigate now. And these systems, Alan, you know more than anybody else as an artist, can be really frustrating, particularly to women artists or artists of color and minorities. What are your thoughts on this? And will the open metaverse allow for more inclusion?
Yeah, I think Web3 and Metaverse is definitely going to change this. I mean, in the past, the traditional gallery and museum system is the ultimate gatekeeper, right? And that means perhaps some of the issues that you talk about, whether it is diversity, could be sacrificed. But I think what's interesting with Web3 is because you can go directly to your user, right? And you don't have to go through the middleman. So I think that clearly is going to change the dynamics. But I would say one more thing, which is I also think when you're creating on a metaverse, in the real world, I mean, there are artists that are anon, like Banksy, people still kind of don't know who he is, right? But in the metaverse, you can really be anyone you want to be, right? So you don't need to say you're a male or female artist, right? You don't need to declare who you are, right? So again, I think that frees up the degree of freedom to create. I really think the metaverse is for everyone, and I think we're going to see that change in arts.
Well said. You're right, and that's exactly right. It's you can be anybody you want in the metaverse, an iteration of the internet itself right now that we're looking at, Web 3.0, but allowing for the creator economy to really flourish in an environment that has no race, no barrier, no ethnic, no financial restrictions, right? And when you look at all of these, especially Animoca, and you look at the gamers in that ecosystem, maybe $5 and $10 for you and I, Alan, it's not much. But when you're gaming and you're in the Philippines or Southeast Asia, that $5 a day that you're making in game, that you're converting to fiat currency because you have a smartphone, this is what I'm talking about paving the way out of poverty and about this creator economy giving rise to the people. And that's at the core of it all. So I think it all converges very nicely together. But we do need the regulators like Amy to keep us in check here. All right, guys.
And I think that's the sorry.
Go ahead. No, but I'd love for you to react.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the stories that we're hearing. And one of the company we invested in is YGG, and a typical gamer in India, they would earn an extra $12, which really didn't sound like a lot until you find out that at the average age of Indian workers is $150. So there's almost 10%. So that's an extra meal, right? That's an extra outing. So I think for many people, Web3 and the ability to play and earn, is creating a big difference.
Yeah, very true. Amy, I have an interesting question. So we have 1.7 billion people in this world that are unbanked and or underbanked, okay? But they all have a smartphone. They all have a smartphone. They can all use that smartphone to even download these super fintech apps, be able to now be part of a banking system that they otherwise would not have been able to be part of in Web 1 or Web 2. So this is a very interesting proposition, and where you have a whole bunch of unbanked and underbanked people with almost no identity anyhow entering an anonymous space. How do you go about controlling that in terms of know your customer? Because now you actually don't know your customer.
Right. Yeah. So what you asked is an incredibly interesting problem when you're facing you're dealing with that from a regulatory perspective, right? On the other hand, I think it's a great opportunity. For example, one of my first investments was in an African crypto exchange. And this is where many of the people that you mentioned, the underbanked people that don't have credit histories exist, right? And I think that in developing countries, there's a special opportunity because they're able to leapfrog directly into the metaverse, into this technology, and start building up an identity, a credit system. So oftentimes you're seeing people being able to build up a credit history within games, build up credibility, build up a reputation, and you're starting to see companies take that information and port it into the real world via microloans. So via the metaverse, you're able to start developing a credit history and start developing your in real life track record and identity.
You just blew my mind. See, you taught me something I didn't know. And I pride myself on knowing a lot just because of the research I do. But these microloans, again, paving the way out of poverty, the creator economy. Alan, what's your reaction to that?
Yeah, I think that's super interesting because we've kind of seen that happening in China in the Web2 world, where there are a lot of microloans, and these are, these are catered to people that were unbanked, right? But with that, they actually were able to build up a credit score for themselves, which they were never able to get from the big banks, right? So it's super interesting to hear from Amy that it's that it's happening in the Web3 world as well, right? And I can imagine already, there could be a soulbound token where the person would wrap his reputation and credit score in it.
Exactly.
And that become the new identity, right? Isn't that interesting? And identity is not just about a name or passport or nationality, right? But it's kind of what you've done, right?
Yeah. Amy, feel free to bounce back there.
And just like, there's so many ideas could come out of this, just the show alone, but even beyond the banking system, right? You can imagine within a game, if you have a player that's built up a reputation and is, didn't have a single dollar to his name, received an airdrop, started playing the game, started building up an arsenal of tokens and NFTs, and now has credibility within the game. You can even see within a game, like an economy developing where other players will stake this player. And that's how this player is going to build up additional credit history within the game, right? And that's why going back to regulations is important, because of game platforms are then going to be facilitating the movement of these loans, and especially if they're going to be taking custody in the middle, then they should be aware of the licenses and the registrations that they need to do. But with the metaverse and blockchain, it's the ceiling is literally your imagination, and so that's what makes it super exciting.
Absolutely. So fantastic. Great conversations. I could go on and on, but I have to cap the time. I love talking. It's like almost like there's a big part of me that is just like a tech geek nerd that wants to hear more and more of this. So I maybe I'm the only one that's excited about my very segments, but I know for a fact that we have 12,000 listeners.
We're certainly excited.
that write in and love the edutainment received, because it's simplified to how it's really affecting real world issues and helping resolve real world issues. So thanks for coming on, guys. It was absolutely enlightening having you on.
Thank you again.
Guys, that was our Hello Open Metaverse, brought to you by Animoca Brands. Definitely check out the awesome Alan Lau, Chief Business Officer of Animoca. Head to animocabrands.com to get involved in all the action, of course, and check out the amazing Amy Madison, amymadison.xyz, or you could find her on Twitter and the gram at _Amy Madison. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Revere Securities. Revere is committed to building a relationship of trust in which they work closely with you to help you define your objectives, explore alternatives, and choose the financial and investment strategies that are most appropriate for you. Go to reveresecurities.com.
Welcome back, my beautiful friends. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up in just a few minutes in My Healthy Minutes segment, brought to us by Revere Securities, we're joined by fitness influencer, co-founder of Radical Body Transformations, Anthony Lawley. Today, we're chatting weight loss, amazing transformations, and how to combat child obesity. According to Health Day News, a new analysis of nationwide health survey data shows for the first time ever, more than 1 in 5 American kids is obese. From 2017 to 2022, rates of obesity rose for kids between 2 and 5 years of age, as well as 12 to 19-year-olds. And the uptick was true for U.S. kids of every race and ethnic background. The pandemic has immensely impacted all classes of society, but the effects on children and adolescents are much more pronounced than on others. While obesity and its comorbidities in youth have always been a concern, the COVID-19 pandemic has proven to be one of the leading causes of health problems in kids worldwide. Nutrition counseling and diet education is vital in maintaining a healthy lifestyle now more than ever. And during the pandemic, staying at home, increased screen time due to online classes, reduced outdoor activities, and more snacking are the very contributing factors that have increased obesity rates and furthered morbidities associated with it. As opposed to specific infectious illnesses, obesity and its comorbidities are non infectious and a slow growing silent risk, guys. Hence, parents approach the pediatrician quite late in the disease process. And here to chat some more is the amazing Anthony Lawley. Welcome to the show, superstar.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Anthony, let's get right to it. You were once obese. Now you look fantastic. You turned your life around to set an example for your kids and to save your life, really. What inspired this 360-degree turn in your life? What was your heaviest weight and how are things different for you now?
My heaviest was 315 pounds, but I think I was a little bit heavier than that. You stopped stepping on the scale. And what contributed was actually my family. My daughter, who was 2.5 at the time, said, "Daddy, you're fat. I don't want you to die." And that was a culmination of what my wife was on top of me about too. Like, lose weight, or you're not going to be a good husband. You're not going to be alive.
Interesting, because it took the very people around you to promote you to your greatness, but usually the small voices are the ones that are heard the most. So congratulations to your daughter for your life-changing transformation.
Absolutely.
Now listen, obesity has significant health consequences, from cancers to diabetes, heart disease, asthma, joint problems. I could go on and on. Anxiety,
Right.
depression, right? And kids are bearing the cost of this disease, and adults are paying for the added health care costs of kids growing up with diseases and needing treatment. And kids who aren't eating nutritious diets tend to perform worse in school, Anthony. I know that for a fact from studying it, but also seeing what's going on in society. And obesity affects every area of a child's life. Now, in your opinion, is there a direct correlation between what you eat and what your kids are choosing to eat? And how are you specifically curbing the sugar addiction in your house?
Well, yes, absolutely. There is a direct correlation. You know, what happened was when I was eating bad and my wife was eating good, I wasn't allowed to eat with the kids anymore because it was an argument. And the kids actually, I was a bad influence on my children. They wanted to know why they couldn't have all the cheese and all the dairy and all the bad things that I was eating. And so that's kind of what like put a wedge between us. And I had this to kind of sneak and eat all the bad things. So absolutely, as much as my wife was indoctrinating them with vegetables and healthy eating, they saw dad getting away with murder. And honestly, I was actually just killing myself with the food.
And I love the way you just said that, killing yourself with the food. You should coin that. But solving the obesity problem is going to be the work of American society as a whole, Anthony. And insurance companies should follow this Affordable Care Act to pay for these weight management services as a way to prevent debilitating and costly disease. In my opinion, prevention and early treatment are so critical to maintain a healthy amount of weight for kids, and it starts at the house. Now, a lot of weight gain occurs, Anthony, when kids are off school or when they're at home, not really doing much during the summertime, during off season. So community leaders and government officials should be advocating for feeding programs to provide healthy meals during this out of school time, and to provide camps and programs with structured activity during the summer. That is where I'd like to pay my taxes, and that's where I want to see my dollars go. What advice do you have to parents dealing with an overweight child currently?
Well, I think what happens is there's a lot of online gaming, right? So that's something that we can't really control. And the children's interest and their mindset is in and around that, especially now with virtual reality and the Metaverse and Oculus. But the good news is there's a lot of exercise and activity that you can do in those games. So, you know, kind of like play towards that. If they like gaming, they like doing that stuff, they're homebodies now, then why not just put the right kind of foods around them while they're snacking? They're not seeing what they're eating, so make it something healthy. And while they're doing a game that's active, I think that's better to embrace what's going on than just to fight them on all angles.
Yes, and I know what you're talking about. These dance games where they could get up, put the Oculus on, and dance to a beat and move to an avatar, something that's
Right.
more interactive, where they can maybe, have their fine motor skills could also be used OTPT when they're looking at a screen. So I do thank you for saying that, because there's so many parents that are against screens. But if you are that parent who's already in it with your child screening too much, then that's a great piece of advice. Now, obesity rises relentlessly, Anthony, because whole industries profit from it. The problem worsens because far more resources are invested in propagating the problem than in fixing it without addressing the root cause. We know, for instance, that we have a food supply of willfully addictive junk food designed to maximize eating, yet they make it very, very difficult, futile recommendations for portion control, so to speak. And obesity gets worse, not mysteriously, but because our society has never made any serious effort to fix it. What advice do you have when navigating the food aisles in the grocery stores?
Well, I think there's a lot of apps out there now that you can download for free that actually you can scan a barcode and it'll let you know what the ingredients are, because honestly, the words are getting more and more technical where even someone like myself has to Google and research it. So you really have to choose some standards. And right now there's a lot of online courses that you could take as a parent to really understand food sources and the nutrition and what's an actual whole food and what's not. I think that it's up to shows like yours to put the word out there and influencers such as myself to lead by example. But I think slowly it's really, the word is out there. It's just more expensive to eat healthy, unfortunately, but people are learning.
People are learning. You're right. Well, listen, my friend, we're out of time. Thank you so much for coming on. You are an inspiration to the world. I hope that your wife and your children are looking at you now and giving you much, much different commentary than they were prior to your weight loss. But thank you so much. You're awesome.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Guys, this is a national disgrace because this problem, this obesity problem, is one with dire consequences that we could fix at any time we genuinely want. We would be well advised to treat obesity in our children as we treat drowning, for after all, they're drowning in calories of ultra-processed food. What's needed is mandatory training about the dangers of overeating and not exercising, as well as a widespread reminder about eating healthy. You guys have to check out Anthony on the gram at Anthony Lawley, entrepreneur, co-founder of Radical Body Transformations. That was My Healthy Minutes, brought to you by Revere Securities. Head to Radical Body Transformations at rbtshow.com. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Revere Securities. Revere is committed to building a relationship of trust in which they work closely with you to help you define your objectives, explore alternatives, and choose the financial and investment strategies that are most appropriate for you. Go to reveresecurities.com.
Well, that's a wrap, my dear friends. We are at the end of our date. Remember to join me right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio, every Saturday night from 9 to 10 p.m. Or you can all head to 710wor.iheart.com/A Moment of Zen. Remember that we're now live on Travers TV Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern and on YouTube Sundays at 2 p.m. All episodes of A Moment of Zen are now available on demand, as well as in our VOD channel on Travers TV and YouTube. We're going to be debuting on Your Home TV very shortly. Stay tuned for announcements on that. For Your Home TV, Kathy Ireland's new ecosystem. Remember to check us out on YouTube and on our channel, Zen Sams with an X. Thank you for listening to A Moment of Zen. It's been an absolute pleasure being your host. Thanks again to all of our sponsors that continue to make this show happen. And remember, happiness is the only thing that multiplies when you share it.